You get the, we're
Okay.
seeing Blaine.
Okay, welcome to Virtually Connecting. Everything with technology is going wrong, but we're connected to Table 16 at Open Ed. And what is going on there, guys?
I don't even know. I can't hear them over there. I'm going to walk over there, though.
So, you know, sometimes technology like masterly fails, and we're just going to try to do what we can to get in on this discussion that's probably a little bit into it already.
Hello, if anyone hears me out of the room.
Hey, Robin.
One of the things that I was thinking about, because a lot of you guys I know from other places to do faculty development, and you're always talking about like, how do you know, you got these superstar faculty, and then you got like the whole middle ground, they might listen to you, and then you got like these people who are just blocking, right? But I was thinking, you know, my school's always into pulling out, like at Google, here's what they do. And like, you know, this is just like making iPhones or whatever. But if you think about that as a model, like at Google, they have this sense of what they do. But 90% of the people who work at Google just do what they do, right? But it ends up fitting in, right, to this larger pattern. There's no way we're going to get most faculty to do this kind of work. But I feel like if we could get institution level coherence around this as a mission and as a conceptual model for education, then it would be fine if some faculty were like, I'm just going to lecture, right? Like, fine, you don't need even most people. You just need a sense that education has a different conceptualizing principle, maybe. That's my idea, is thinking as an admin. I'm like, instead of trying to get, you know, all the faculty, like what if we tried instead to get institutions to, and this is like Christopher Newfield a little bit in his book about wrecking public education. He's sort of saying we need new rhetorics, you know, new ways of talking about institutions. And then faculty can keep, you know, a lot of faculty can keep doing what they're doing, because enough faculty will, you know, I don't know what people think about that, but that's a, yeah.
And the table that I was just at was saying you cannot have right? Because I am now the legacy holder of a program that was a top-down program. The sort of French shitstorm that's happened on the back end of that in terms of no buy-in whatsoever, right? And so.
I know you can't hear anything right now.
Yeah.
Almost.
Feel weird. I'm just shoving the microphone in people's faces.
Harry, you're a martyr here. Like, you're sacrificing this half hour of your life for us.
Oh, let's go over to Jim. I'm going to shove it in his face. I don't feel bad doing that.
If someone wants to know the author that we barely heard mentioned.
I'm stuck.
Don't trip.
Is this like virtual reality?
It is as ding, I think.
Everybody has to do the whole thing or not. So where do we ever experiment with innovation? I'd like to return to the idea here of taking these kinds of activities that we want, you know, regardless of how we might get more faculty to do these kinds of assignments. How can we turn these assignments into something that serves the community so that we're less course, I guess colleges, institutions strike me as they're course first oriented or degree oriented first. That's the first thing we're all focused on, and everything has to relate to that. And I'm wondering, can't we do this in a way, and I'll give you a quick example, and disclaimer, we have not done this yet. I'm gonna, but had some discussions and brainstorming with a few faculty this past summer. And we're thinking, we've got a faculty member who teaches English and has students go out in actually kind of a service learning go to either senior homes or homeless shelters and help people document and write up the stories of their lives. We've got some historians that help folks figure out how to, go to original sources and tell the story of a building or something, some sort of events like that. And I was going, why don't we do these assignments where students go out and find a building, an old building in our community and document it, and we put it on a public website. And over time, as more students do the assignment, the community has a historical database. People could drive around the community and go, oh, what is that building? And look up. Oh, and find out, well, Ransom E. Olds actually used this, such and such. Or, learn the history of their community. And then maybe they would actually see the college as a place you learn instead of, and then if they started learning from us, then maybe they would come to take a course. I don't know.
So I just wanted to say that I am all for public education. I went to Maryland, but the first school that hired me was Franklin and Marshall, the small liberal arts girls who were top. But I think that
Any questions going on?
What's the topic?
I think a good use of our time is to find out what they're talking about and let Terry go, and we'll have that conversation virtually. Learn first. OER, the College of Strategic Plan and Community. Okay. What do you think, Alan? Shall we let them go and just talk about it ourselves? What do you guys think? What does everyone else think?
Yeah, because I think we're kind of being intrusive and.
Mm. Okay.
College.
So Terry.
I can hear you.
Okay. So are you okay with that?
Can you hear them?
Yeah.
Right now?
I can hear everything.
Oh, okay.
Virtually connecting.
Let's.
Hello.
There's your own screen.
Okay. So let's just let them go. Unless you guys would rather be with us than with Robin and Jim, which is.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we kind of. It's okay, Ken. Technology happens.
We want to join with you.
Okay. All right. So what do you think that topic means? I'm not even sure.
We can move. Yeah, we're gonna move away from their topic.
Okay.
This is virtually connecting the fly.
Unscheduled round table.
The funny thing is, I'll say we have 8 people watching. I don't know what they're saying, but this is like we completely planned this to show you like how not to do a virtually connecting session. This is totally going by script.
Okay, so I'm actually going to ask people, like, what kind of OER type strategies do you have on your campus, or what kind of open strategies do you have on your campus? I see Jennifer nodding, so I'm hoping that she has something. No, nothing to say.
So our institution, I'm coming to in a really kind of confused place right now because we, as of last week, had a unveiling of a new prioritization to roll out an OER initiative in our institution. Again, we're a 2-year freshman sophomore transfer institution, and we're spread across the state of Wisconsin at 13 campuses. And we were going to do a pilot of converting 1/4 of our course offerings into OER supported courses. Yesterday, our UW system president, so the overarching system over all of the University of Wisconsin, just unveiled a plan and proposal to merge the 2-year schools into the 4 years. And so I don't know. So right now we're just sort of waiting and seeing how that's going to, you know, the colleges as we exist right now as an institution is going to be dissolved. So I'm not the best person necessarily. We're right at the cusp of working toward this conversion of a quarter of our courses, but now I don't know what R means anymore. So I'm not the best person to chime in. So I was just nodding because, yes, I just was nodding.
Kind of puts the whole emphasis on strategic there when things just kind of poof,
right.
we're a different institution now, right?
Right. But I think what I was hearing from the woman who was speaking first, the notion of, you know, it really does need to, I mean, I don't know what the right approach is. Is it ground up? Is it at the course level on up? Is it an overarching principle and philosophy that you get faculty on board with?
That's always the ground up versus ground up versus top down question is kind of like the nature nurture question. I think you always need a combination of both. Good question. I think it's meaningless if you have a top down and there's nobody at the ground who wants to do it. Occasionally, if someone at the ground wants to do it and there's no help from up there, something can happen, but it won't grow until eventually it reaches someone up there. The problem is what happens in the middle is actually quite complicated, isn't it? It's like trying to get something from being an early adopter type of innovative type of thing into a more mainstream. We were talking recently in my institution that there are some things that we have people who are really on the cutting edge of things, and then what we would consider innovation as an institution is really pretty normal now, and it's pretty established. There's evidence to say that it works, but still people are skeptical about it. And we had a visit from people at MIT recently, and they were saying, yeah, most people still lecture there. Like even the ones who create the innovative stuff use that innovative stuff in the background and still go to lecture, because I'm thinking the students go there because they want that face-to-face experience, for example. And I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of like we play this game. What do students like think of this whole? Are they even getting the picture of what's going on, or it's just like, hey, I sign up for my courses, I go to class, and stuff happens, and we want things to be student driven, and sometimes students want us, they want the institution to sort of outline as to what happens there.
I think you're going to teach a class your way, and the 30 students are going to learn it 30 different ways. We need to hear those stories.
I agree. That's a great point. Annie's saying something in the text. I don't know if she wants to try to say it out loud. She's currently muted, but maybe she can try to unmute and say it out loud.
Well, Annie's question was, our elementary school usually has some teachers that want to try something new, and then we ask them for support from our admin. With their support, new technology rolls out faster. So it sounds like both of what Maha was saying. Sometimes teacher says, "Hey, I want to do this," and the admin here in that case listens. But it's not like. Oh.
One of the issues though with that is who gets heard by admin, right? Some people just tend to either be friends with admin or just know what to say to attract the admin, and someone else doesn't.
How do I do this?
It's not because they have an idea.
How do I?
And sometimes you just see your levels and other people don't. Ken's still fighting his audio. We love you, Ken. It's not your fault, man. I just watched Good Will Hunting. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. You're supposed to hug me now, okay?
Would it be possible, I'm curious for everyone on the call, where people are on the spectrum of OER integration or adoption? Are we interested parties? Are some folks further down the road in this initiative? What's happening at your institutions?
Terry, you want to start? I think you might have better than I do.
Sorry, I was trying to read something in the chat. Can you rephrase the question?
where's your institution?
Sure. Just where, I'm just kind of curious if to get a sense of all the people on the call, where you are in terms of OER integration within your institution, maybe, or personally, what's your involvement in this effort?
So I'm right now seconded to eCampus Ontario, which is a consortium of all the Ontario campuses and colleges and universities. So there are our members. And one of our main agendas is promoting and funding and helping the development of OERs. The funding part is kind of phasing out a bit, it seems, but now we're working to enable the development of what we funded. So we're pretty strongly got our feet planted right in the middle of it. Just trying to figure out how best to do it. Like, we're going to be doing some development sprints and stuff like that, trying to figure out the best way to... Oh, here's Jim.
Hi.
You want to hear?
The question about how all of us, our institutions, are along the path of OER adoption. Like, just starting.
That's their question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or change the question.
Well, the question we're discussing at the table is the challenges and any ideas about. We really got into an idea, and I think towards the end, kind of summarized it. Colleges, for the management standpoint or the policy maker standpoint, there's this tendency of them to think of the college or the university almost like, we're a degree or credential factory. And then whenever, they can get behind OER, free textbooks. They understand free textbooks, lower price for customer. But then the moment you say open pedagogy, the eyes glaze over, and it's like, oh, that's the details over in that department of how they do that. And they don't want to get into that. And we were talking about, is there an opportunity with OER, with students creating open materials, with students engaging in projects where they're going out into the public and documenting things? Can we structure this stuff so that we make it available to the community as a resource? And then the community starts experiencing, because on any given day, I know in my community, there's tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people want to learn something every day. That's not saying they want to take a course. They want to learn something. So what do? They go to Google, or they go to YouTube, or they go somewhere like that, or they go to Reddit, or God knows where. What if they started coming across resources that we and our students had made that explain this or that, or show them how to do this or that? And they start learning that, hey, the college is a place where you can learn things. And when I want to learn, I know OpenU in the UK does stuff like this. And I guess I was just stealing the idea and trying to figure out how we do it here. That's what we've been discussing.
Jump over here, then you can hear what they're saying.
There were projects like that at University of Mary Washington, way back before even they were doing domains, where they were doing blogs. There was just the one where they went out and they students were documenting the historical, like you drive by on the road and you see like a sign that says historical marker. And so, they were building a website that, students contributed data to, that was, stuff that was in the public, and it was a great project. I don't know if it really got public traction per se, but I think you would need sort of like a reputation for multiple projects like that, perhaps. And then, the sad thing is, lately you read about the way people get their information. It's the top Google search results. And so,
right.
Yeah, I don't want to get in the game of like, we got to place our stuff there.
No.
Like, how does what you're doing at the institution, filter out into your community is an interesting, tough question.
So who else is here?
Okay.
Grant. Okay.
Annie left.
Yeah, Annie had to go, but we were glad to have her.
Anyway, some of the ideas folks came up with was there was a fair amount of talk about we need to be careful. We have to strike a balance as faculty when we're trying to promote these things, open pedagogy and these kinds of larger community engagement efforts, we have to strike a balance between making sure we use the language that is, you know, administration du jour this year, whether it's experiential learning this year, you know, or one person was saying this year it's high impact practices at their school. But we also kind of need to package this up as all these kinds of things so that they're in plainer language, so that, God, I don't want to, this is going to sound horrible, like administrators aren't smart, but it's not that. It's that I think a lot of the language you use comes across as meaningless. I know personally for me, for 40 years, pedagogy didn't mean crap. You know, is what?
It doesn't mean crap. It means like teaching is a double negative. That's good.
Right. Anyway, we need to somehow package this up, you know, something that they can go from, you know, because they get free textbooks. But anyway, I was thinking more about, anyway, so there was talk about that. We didn't solve anything.
But actually, just raised a really good point. You teach economics, right? So most faculty in the disciplines were never told that term pedagogy before they started teaching. And I remember I work with assembly learning and teaching, so we use it all the time. But it doesn't mean that you don't think about your teaching just because you're not using the term, right? But the thing is, you say something like open pedagogy, you have no idea what you mean by open, what you mean by pedagogy, and so the conversation just goes right over their heads because it's not a term that's familiar. Even though a term like high impact means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. High impact. Impact on what? What's impact? How are you measuring it? What do you mean by it? What matters? You know, all these terms that people use, but that's the right term to use this year because everyone's using it. And it was one of the things we were talking about earlier is that if you want something to go from ground up to top down, you need to find a way to get the administration to listen to you. And, you know, whether they listen to you is not a function of how good your idea is. It's about how you say it and who gets to listen and who has influence over top management and things like that, which is worrying. But Jennifer was asking different people where their institution stands in terms of the open spectrum, in terms of adoption. And I was thinking of what's happening for me over here is that they're into the digital. So anything that says digital is good. So, and they understand what a MOOC is. Because we're doing some MOOCs, and then I try to explain to them that I'm trying to explain to them that an open textbook is something that's like MOOC but without the interaction, and trying to explain that maybe we can do something slightly different with MOOCs, and you know, that kind of thing. Just trying to find something that they understand and get somewhere near it. But the idea, like in different situations, this free textbook thing is not always. In the U.S., it matters because textbooks are expensive and a lot of courses use textbooks. But if courses don't use textbooks, it doesn't really do that. So it's not like the baseline for a lot of people.
Well, we've gone in the States at a lot of institutions, actually the majority of institutions now, we've gone so far down the, as Robin put it, the neoliberal agenda of changing the staffing model to this contingent low-paid labor that actually the textbooks, the reality is in, I think, most courses in most schools, the textbook is the course. You know, the prof, a lot of times, is just, you know, the talking hand puppet presenting the textbook, which is very sad.
Like the textbook comes with the PowerPoints.
Right.
Kind of like people say, oh, you want to do an online course? Let's get Pearson to give us an online course. And I'm like, is there nothing that you do that's outside the book that Pearson can create your course for you?
Right.
It's painful when I hear that.
Right. Yeah, and I've been pressured by administrators to package up, you know, since I get great success in my online course, well, I'm supposed to package up a master course that they can just, they've actually mentioned, well, you know, we could plug somebody in at the last minute to teach it. And I'm kind of feeling like, you know, well, at the last minute, if you give them, you know, all the years I did of this and this and that, and, you know, maybe they could teach it the way I teach it. I don't know.
You're supposed to package it up.
Yeah, well, here, let me knock it all out, you know.
Oh, no, you need to open source Jim Luke.
Yeah.
I'm thinking if someone follows my blog enough, they'll know about all the questions I've had about every assignment I've ever given my students.
Yeah.
And so they could go through that entire journey, and then maybe they can teach it.
Well, come to think of it, actually, there's a lot of pieces in my blog, you know, because I haven't written much econ stuff lately, but I used to really blitz it. Most of it's right there. You know, it's, you don't know which sequence to go in to actually have it make sense. It's all kind of random, you know, and yeah, there's some mortar between the bricks that's probably important that's not there.
So it's like a Tarantino film of economics.
Actually, economics is more like Sam Peckinpah films.
I'm wondering if Graham or Jennifer want to add anything about what's happening on their end, or any thoughts on this?
Graham's watching Peckinpah or something. Graham, your fans are calling you.
Hey, let me just change. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Just since there were no introductions at the start, I'm Graham Steele from Glasgow, Scotland. My background is more open science, open access, etc. I'm familiar with the OER, but I'm sort of at the cusp of what's happening, so I like to join these kind of sessions to learn more about the cutting edge of OER. One thought that occurred to me earlier today, I was on a video call 2 days ago. The main speaker was Lorna Campbell, also from Scotland. Some of you might know Lorna.
Yeah.
And my question to her, which I wish to put to you guys, is, are there any disadvantages about being open in the field of OER? Her response was mixed. It depends how open you want to be, but are there any disadvantages to being fully open in the OER community? Discuss.
It's like the open like a beer or open like a puppy. It's open like a puppy.
Libre versus gratis.
Pardon?
The libre versus gratis for the free is in free.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's one of the important things. Is it, is it free as in beer or free as in speech? I don't know. I really haven't. The disadvantage, I'm going to pull one of these rhetorical things where I'm going to describe the disadvantage, but it's actually an advantage.
Spoiler alert.
The disadvantage is it takes extra time, and it becomes more challenging to teach your course. I was writing a thing last summer. It's kind of like it adds, my experience with faculty when we introduce them to OER is, there's the 5R permissions, but it's an interesting dynamic. Even if they don't get fully OER in the resources, they experience a sixth permission, and the permission is to think through the course and make it theirs. Especially because in my case, I teach at a community college. We're the first 2 years of school. So we have a lot of these big principles courses, the stuff that, $200 textbooks, and they're trying to say this is the field. And lots of folks have never felt any permission to deviate from that book. But now OER, they go, oh, well, you know what? I'm not charging the students $200. I can bring in 2 books and take pieces of them. I can do all kinds of stuff. And now I can actually start making this my experience of econ or biology and how I understood it, and make it that way. So it's more time, it's more work, but in the long run, it actually makes for a heck of a lot better product. That to me is the biggest disadvantage. The other disadvantage would be a question of expectations. I think when people we've experienced as the school is starting putting an initiative behind OER, the folks at the very top, it took a while to get the folks at the very top behind it because it was a bottom-up driven initiative. But now they have flipped. The board of trustees and the president are just gangbusters for OER. And that means they think, oh, well, we'll just write a $500,000 check. And boy, you folks will all be on this next semester, right? And now we're like, well, you know, there's faculty development, there's tools they have to have. It takes time. It's not instant. So now we're getting the pressure. I know. Ken, you're OER-ish.
I don't know. It's my background lately is I've been paying more attention to OER and the resources in the books, because for me it was all about the pedagogy, and now I'm not resisting so much the focus that's been in this event about the books. Wrapping my head around my change on view on this, because I met a faculty member who he came to me saying, my students are sick of paying for this crappy Pearson stuff that we're forcing them down their throats, and it's in English, which sucks for them because they're dominantly Spanish speakers. And he came to me saying, can we write something? And I'm a good software engineer. I'm not going to build a new system. I want to build on top of something. But then I said, why don't we use an open textbook? And he looked at me with glassy eyes, like he just had no idea what these things are. And so that's where I thought, well, yeah, there's a lot of advocacy we can do to get this great resources that are out there in the hands of faculty that don't have a clue that it exists.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's, I guess to paraphrase that, a disadvantage from an institutional perspective is that it really is a, it's a ground war. It's, one faculty member at a time, or small groups at a time that you really, it's not something you do a big presentation and you say, hey, now we're going to do all this and everybody go do it.
We at eCampus Ontario, we just ported over BC Campus's open textbook library. So great, we have these 200 textbooks or 180, but that's just like step 0.5. Now we got to go and match them to all the courses and contact people and say, hey, do you know about this? Are you willing to change? Why wouldn't you? Does it fit your course? Work.
How can you modify it, not just use it?
Yeah. But would it? Yeah. Is it yesterday in one of the sessions? There was just some data that a barrier to adoption of open educational resources is just habit. I have my textbook. I'm not even looking for a new one, so I don't even know it's out there. So it's up to us, I guess, to put it in front of their face, say, hey, use this. Why not?
Yeah. So
can I ask a question about, or respond to Graham's question about what are the negatives of open, sort of what's the downside? And I don't know if I'm the only librarian on this group, but I wonder, I think about things, I often can find clarity in the opposite ends of the spectrum, the absurd, right? The pendulum swinging from one side to the other. So what does it look like if all scholarship is open? That there's not any compensation directly for the sharing creation of scholarship along, the whole scholarly journey. Are we nervous about that? Not nervous about that? At crass terms, how do people do this? How do people survive and have the capacity to continue creating content for others to use, adapt, remix, when they may not be compensated for that work? Is that a I don't know that I don't know what I think of that, but I just want to throw that out there. I mean, how does this keep going?
And
faculty are incentivized to adopt, faculty are incentivized to create. I'm sorry, I'll be quiet here.
So the answer depends on our individual situation. Like, I can share all my stuff. I don't care because I'm getting a paycheck from my employer and I'm a full-time faculty. But what about someone in a more developing country or that's their gig? This is a hard question.
So a lot of the OERs are developed by people in a privileged spot of having that job, that they can spend the time in the job making these things and then sharing them out. But someone who's like part-time or sessional or adjunct, are they like giving away something that
their stuff
is their stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, as obviously I'm an economist and I pay attention to, you know, history and how industries change. It's not a perfect analogy, but there's a little bit of analogy to it, which is if you look at the recorded music industry over the last 50 years, or even longer, for a long time, everybody well, not everybody, but the game was making money by selling, producing published copyrighted stuff and selling it. Now, the reality is that turned into what economists call a giant tournament, which means the very top tier made obscene amounts of money, but nobody, you know, everybody else did in the belief that, oh, I'll climb the ladder and get there, you know, but now what's happened is with, you know, music being so cheap and MP3s and file share, it started with file sharing and going on like that. Now what's happened in the music industry, nobody gets rich off the recording anymore. Bands don't make it off the recording. Even the biggest bands anymore make all of their money off the live performances and the ancillaries.
And that was the Grateful Dead's point when they said, I don't care if people pirate our music.
Exactly. And I've been struck that it's kind of similar in the sense of, you know, for a long time we held out this myth to faculty that, you know, if you just publish in all this copyrighted stuff, but the reality is, you know, there's only two guys that ever got, and I'm sorry they're guys, but, you know, we're economists and most of them are misogynists, but there's only two guys that ever got $1 million advance for a textbook. Publisher making the money. What we're doing is we're getting paid. Ken and I are getting paid for the live performance. And the college is making some money off of the ancillaries, the college experience and everything else. So, you know, yeah, personally, I've learned, as I have over the last, I don't know, 5 to 10 years, but particularly the last few years, made my stuff really open and accessible on the web. It's all come back to me. I mean, I ended up speaking at a conference in London last year. I mean, I'm talking to somebody, you know, well, I think she dropped off in Egypt, who knows me. You know, that would have never happened.
Yes.
Never. If I hadn't started sharing stuff.
And I think the same thing. I wouldn't have gotten these gigs
if
I wasn't sharing my stuff.
So
I wouldn't be stuck between these two guys.
So that may be a disadvantage.
I want to hear Alan.
Hey, Ken.
I want to hear Alan's thought on this. I mean, because you don't have
thought, just one, he said.
Just one.
Nice. Just that, you know, I mean, Jim outlines it well in terms of, like, you know, some of the problems of the economics of the system, but I think generally most people think about a material value of content, and you know, with Jennifer's idea, maybe it's like, you know, the sort of idealized wish is that people get a value out of using what's available to them as open, and that kind of motivates them to maybe shift and turn about what they share in terms of a sort of a pay it forward. I've always believed in that. It doesn't seem like it's moved incredibly much in that direction. Maybe some, but you know, I don't know. I've only taught open and sharing all my stuff, because to me it doesn't have any material value. I mean, not to say it's valueless, but like everybody says, I get more in terms of things that come back to me. But that's been through a lot of years of experience, and so, like, how do you make a case for that with people who are trying to just enter this space? It is a big nut. And Terry, the group that Terry worked with, I did the workshop in the summer, and man, it's just, you got to get people to buy on for a long haul. And so if people are looking right away for the instant payoff for the reason why, it's got to be like, gotta trust me. And then I feel like me telling my stories don't really convince people, because it's an ad of time to create and share, and you have to do it because there's something that you get out of doing it. But we've been going on a long time here. Ken says these are great questions for Ryan and Cable. Yeah, those guys have all the answers.
I'd say, well, I don't think they do, but Jennifer, that'd be a great question for Ryan Merkley and Cable Green when we have them at 3 p.m. today.
Okay.
And if you don't come, then I'd like to relay that question. Okay. Terry will be there with me.
And I'm probably going to have to wrap up here because I think somebody's probably stealing my phone and my bag over there.
That's fine. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. This turned out to be a great discussion despite the total thrill of technology.
I want to say thank you to everybody for even trying it.
Well, this is what happens when you don't throw up your hands when the technology fails. You don't punt. You try to do the best you can.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to stop the broadcast. And thanks for the 8 viewers. I don't know why you're watching, but we had a good time.